the Diaphragm Design webinar was originally in originally in one webinar last year, and there were a few comments stating that it was, kind of too much information crammed into 2.5 hours, and it needed to be expanded. So, one thing I wanted to say is we do appreciate your comments, especially if they're suggestive of trying to make the webinars better. So we took the Diaphragm Design using unbonded PT and made that into a part 1, obviously, and a part 2, which will be on Thursday. So hopefully this whole process is a little more usable. It's not so much information in one day, but also I think this webinar that I gave last year, I think had the most questions I ever had in a webinar. So I have allotted plenty of time for questions, comments, anything you have. So if you do have some questions about this, feel free to add them, and I will do my best during the breaks to respond. If you have a question that you just come up with later, obviously my email is on the bottom of the first slide and the last one, so please email me and I'll try to get back to you as quickly as I can. So moving forward, as usual, I'm going to push my book. Christmas is coming up, so if you have that hard to shop for person, this is the perfect gift. Probably not, but it may be, who knows. This is the book that myself and my business partner Dirk Bondi wrote effectively during the recession of 2008, when we had nothing else to do. After we had searched the internet, we decided to put all of our stuff that we had been doing in a book, and this is what it is. Basically, it's a book that is split up into 2 parts effectively. The first part is the undergraduate course that is taught at several universities, and the second half of the book is basically what happens in the real world and pictures and stuff like that. So it has 2 different aspects. One's the educational process, and then the second one is more of the application process that have happened over the years. So there is a specific chapter in this book 12 that is specific to diaphragm design, where I'm going to talk about a lot of the same things that is covered in that book. So if you are interested, obviously it is available for you. As I mentioned before, there's an undergraduate class portion and the more practical portion. If you're too cheap to buy my book, I actually just wrote a diaphragm design article for the PTI journal. That's the current one. It came out, I believe, in July or August of this year. And effectively, it's a condensed version of this webinar. Talk about the exact same concepts. The only quote unquote change on this is I didn't cover chords and chord design in this article. So I don't know if you're a PTI member, I'm assuming you get this for free. If you're not, I don't know if you have to purchase it or what, but again, if you're more specific or more interested in a singular article, I think it's like 9 or 10 pages. It's not that particularly long, but it covers the exact same stuff and obviously more detail that I'm going to cover in the webinars. So moving forward, diaphragm design. The one thing I'm going to say, start off this process, is I've been designing concrete buildings for an extremely long time. I did not invent this. My business partner, Dirk, did not invent this. This was taught to us. I'm assuming it was taught to other people and handed down generation to generation. So I don't want you to feel like I'm coming up with something that is my brainchild. This is something that I was taught, makes perfect sense. I've used it for millions and millions of square feet of concrete diaphragms. The major difference, and the reason I'm presenting this as a webinar series, is because there's a very, very little amount of information about concrete diaphragm design, and what is available typically is more based for steel and wood, and you don't get the benefit from the beauty and the nature of concrete. So as I mentioned before, this has been used for decades, millions, probably billions of square feet of post-tension slabs. And also the methodology I'm going to go through is also good for just reinforced concrete slabs. So you don't have to be post-tension to benefit from a lot of this stuff. So while I, drink the Kool-Aid of post-tensioning, if you just don't want to do PT, this webinar and this practical knowledge of just concrete, I think, will benefit you as well. And unfortunately, if you got the reference to drinking Kool-Aid is bad, you probably are very old, or at least a student of history. So anyway, it's great for PT and it's great for reinforced concrete as well. It's primarily taught in industry. As I mentioned before, I don't know of any course, academic course, graduate school or undergraduate, that basically covers diaphragm design in terms of concrete. Maybe there is, I've never heard of one. As I mentioned before, there is a void in the system, in the academic system, I should say. So if you have all of your concrete textbooks, the ones you had from Concrete 101 in college, or one you just picked up If you're older and you have a new hire who brought in their concrete textbook, try to find something that covers reinforced concrete diaphragm design. I'd be shocked if you found it, because most of the books, like I said, cover beams, cover columns, cover shear walls. I mean, there's entire books written about shear wall and frame design, flat plates, foundations, but very, very little information about the diaphragm, which I always found to be kind of surprising, because in terms of the seismic or lateral stability of a structure, the diaphragm is unbelievably important, primarily because if you don't have a good diaphragm, it doesn't matter how great your shear walls or frames are, your boundary elements, your detailing, all that kind of stuff. If the diaphragm can't deliver the load to the shear wall, you have no shear wall. It's hanging out in the breeze. It's all of a sudden it's a springboard or a diving board.